In today's episode, what actually happens when you stop trying to do everything yourself and start building real leverage in your real estate business?
I want to burn this effing thing down to the ground because you just can't face it anymore. You can't have any more stimuli coming at you. Imagine the thought if you just scaled back or hired leverage and then you could do less, right?
And how can that shift change the pace, scale, and sustainability of your growth? Welcome back to another episode of The Freedom Blueprint. I'm Adrienne Green, and today I have with me my longtime friend, Brittany Brooks. Brittany, thank you for being here with me.
Happy to be here.
And on the podcast, we help real estate entrepreneurs escape the grind to actually create the life of freedom that they usually got into real estate for the first place. So, Brittany, I'd love for you to share with our listeners, what does your real estate business look like right now?
Well, after a long journey of breakdowns and breakthroughs, we are living a life by design, a business by design, very intentional monthly, annual reflection. And so I own a real estate brokerage. My husband and I used to have a top real estate team in the city of Jacksonville. So we're in Jacksonville and it's called Momentum Realty. So we house and manage about 280 real estate agents now and helping them live incredible lives and build big businesses. Just in a way, what we say all the time is you get into real estate to get out. And so we are helping them build their businesses to scale and potentially find freedom and get out of real estate. Yeah, I know. It's crazy to say. Get into real estate to get out of real estate.
Well, and real estate gives you so many opportunities that if you've been in real estate, you don't question that phrase. It makes sense.
But you're like, how do I get out of this? And why did I choose this? But I love this. It's like this toxic relationship. You see the light, but you've got to get there.
Right, exactly. And there's going to be ups and downs along the way. And that is what we will share in today's call. So what I love about having Brittany on for our listeners is, a lot of our speakers are in the investing space, but I'm telling you that this podcast is for all real estate entrepreneurs. And Brittany, while she is a real estate investor, her primary seat was as an agent and is now as a broker. And so I'm loving her coming on and sharing that part of the story. But Brittany, how did you get into real estate in the first place?
So this is a fun one. And yes, I forgot to say, so real estate investing. So this story will involve mainly real estate investing at its start that led into creating a business and multiple businesses and streams of income within real estate. So the quick version, because it's been almost a decade now since we moved to Jacksonville and started this journey, is we went through the home buying process ourselves. John and I were both working in real estate M&A, and I was doing small cap company mergers and acquisition activity as an analyst. And so we were just living the grind for the man, like the other, the corporations and the big teams, and doing exactly what we were supposed to be doing from college to then graduating and getting the prestigious jobs and just in it. Gaslighting ourselves, being told that we should want that, right? And that this is what you're supposed to be in. And we went through the home buying process for the first time. And at the time we were like, oh, this is not okay. So John eventually ran the show, went to the seller himself and delivered our offer. Our agents were not as active as we thought that they should be. We come from a place of just demanding excellence and standards and professionals doing professional jobs, and they weren't. And with our background in accounting and finance and John in real estate activities through his corporate job, we were like, oh my goodness, there could be something here, right? I think the first thing for every entrepreneur is they say, I think there could be something here. And they wonder if things could be different. And then you wonder if it can be you. And then you have an identity crisis and you're like, is that what we're about to do? So I'm pretty conservative in terms of like risk averse, playing the safe game. And so the thought of going into real estate and quitting my job, I was a CPA at the time, I had done everything I'm supposed to, was very daunting. So John is like, I think I want to quit my job and I want to go and become a real estate agent. And at the time, the premise of having the title of real estate agent, we're like, it just has a certain connotation to it. I think you know what I mean, especially coming from more corporate career. You're like, you're going to become a real estate agent? What are you doing?
Yeah, I feel like it's maybe a step above like ambulance chasing attorneys, but it kind of has a certain vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, okay, we kind of get the feel of who you are in a way. And so he decided to get his license. And I was like, you've got 3 months. We were not engaged at the time. We were just living together. We had moved from Washington, D.C. to Jacksonville. And even just that, like following a boy to Jacksonville, for me, I was like, what are we doing? Right. So already we're
Right.
entering crisis mode of like, now my boyfriend wants to quit his job and become a real estate agent. Okay. So I was like, you've got 3 months to make money, and I'm not going to be anybody's sugar mama. And he made it work, pounding the
Right.
pavement every day. We're in Florida, summer heat, knocking on doors, dropping off flyers, trying to get his name out there, buying leads at the realtor.com and Zillow were very inexpensive. And he was like, I've got nothing to do all day. I'm trained to work 10, 12 hours a day or more. So I've got nothing to do but sit here and dial and dial and dial. And he did. He started the business. That was 2015, end of 2015. We did get engaged. He bought my engagement ring with the first house sale commission that he made. And it ended up working out well. So he sold about 65 homes his first year. And
Wow.
we were like, this is working. And then he was knocking on me to come over and join the business, tapping my shoulders constantly. And I was like, absolutely not. This is your thing. I'm still in tunnel vision of doing what I'm supposed to do and living in the glory of the corporate life and growing in that realm. And then he showed me the piano. And he's like, I make 3 times what you make and I work half the time. And this happened in a year.
Right.
And you can't deny the data, right? So we can gaslight ourselves. We can tell ourselves that the story is not true, but you can't fake the data. And we are financiers at our core, like data analysts, tracking numbers.
Hmm.
That tells the story. And so when he showed me the numbers and the profit, and I also am seeing the joy he's having with clients every day and helping them achieve their dreams of home ownership or home sales. And
Right.
it's just a different experience, right? And he's like, I'm either going to hire someone or I'm going to hire you as a buyer's agent. The business has gotten too big for him at the time to handle on his own. So this is our first moment of leverage. And it just happens to be with me, where he's like,
Hmm.
everything you're doing, you're helping companies buy and sell each other. This is the same thing. It's just not with snarky investment bankers, and you're helping real
Right.
people buy and sell homes. Like, come on.
Hmm.
And eventually I did it, and it was horrible and painful because I loved my job and I loved my team, and it was just everything I could have imagined. But there was a bigger picture being played out at the start. And so that was 2017. And I joined him. I also sold 66 homes as a buyer agent. So I came on as a buyer agent only. I did not touch listings. So we decided very early on to have separation of duties. So, and this is through coaching and a lot of work as well, of you do not cross into the other person's swim lane unless you
Right.
ask for permission to cross into their swim lane. So we are not allowed to give each other feedback unless we ask for it. We had to get individual coaches because you've got two high drivers that believe in their individual missions and want to help each other grow because you love each other and you want to see them succeed,
Right.
but it can start to collapse really fast in terms of resentment and feeling like, well, you're just coaching me and you're supposed to be my spouse, but you're a business
Hmm.
partner. So it's kind of weird, right? It's kind of funky
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah. Working with your spouse it can be amazing, and it comes with its own set of challenges for sure.
Exactly. Let me turn on Do Not Disturb. So it
It's
comes with
okay.
its own challenges. And yes, it was very interesting dynamic. We thought we would kill each other at the beginning. I think that's why I denied joining him for so long. But you can do it the right way with the right systems, with the right coaching, having your individual swim lanes within the bigger pool and the bigger mission, right? So then I came over. We became the #1 Keller Williams team in Jacksonville in 2018, and it took off. It was amazing. Such an incredible experience and just living the dream. We're just married, no kids at the time, and we just dove headfirst into as much as we could do and just having so much fun. And then had our baby in 2019. And that was when the very first, I would say, big breakdown happened, that we had to change everything.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So, yeah. So, and then it'll evolve into years of Momentum Realty. But this was the first moment that we had people telling us while I'm pregnant, okay, what are you guys going to do? Because now we've become a 2-person, $40 million sales team. selling hundreds of homes a year between the two of us. Two high drivers, high grinders, just demanded levels of excellence from our programming and training for so long that we can't see outside of that. No one can do it better than us, right? No, there won't be anybody as excellent as us. And you go into it with that mindset. And then you crash down and burn. And all of a sudden, I have Evelyn in 2019, our first child, and I can't go out on showings. I'm breastfeeding and I'm sleep deprived. And John is now trying to handle two massive businesses as a solo agent and trying to cover me. And at the time, we had an operations manager. So we had hired an operations manager. And then we hired two showing assistants. So this is the first start of you are so desperate that you have to find leverage, which is not
Right.
a double-edged sword, right? Because sometimes you have to get to a place to realize that you need something, but it would
Mhm.
be a lot better if you prepared for it ahead of time.
Yes, listeners, listen to this because how many stories have we had on this podcast where it's like it was at a low point. I was like struggling and I had to build systems or I had to delegate. I had to, leverage other people, those kind of things. And so we're giving you the shortcut, guys. Do it before you get to that point of chaos, that point of crap, now I can't do showings. Now I, can't even think. I'm just trying to take care of this baby. Handle these things beforehand. Learn and do this, put this in place first. Okay, so you guys,
Please.
you got the operations manager, you got a couple showing assistants,
Yes.
and what happened from there?
Yeah. So from there, actually, we were going to burn it all down. So this is just, it's a wild story, right? I think every
If
person
you
that has a
haven't gotten
breakdown is
to the point, yeah, you're like, okay, am I
burning
just
it
going
all
to sell
down.
this, burn it, and walk away? Like that is a natural thing that happens. Good point.
Yeah.
Good thing to bring up. Yes.
You're doing it right. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say the word right, but you're doing it full force if you have a moment of, I want to burn this effing thing down to the ground because you just can't face it anymore. You can't have any more stimuli coming at you, especially when you're in client services and client needs. And you're just like, I just want to turn it off. Imagine the thought if you just scaled back or hired leverage and then you could do less, right? But we get there with 5 years of pain and figuring it out along the way. But the goal is that we're giving these success stories and giving these breakdown examples so that people can learn from them and don't do this. But ego is a very interesting thing. When you believe you can do it all yourself, you don't see outside of yourself. And ego can drive a big business to a point, and then it all comes crashing down and you can't see outside of needing help. So John
Right.
broke his back. We have a newborn. We have no family in Jacksonville. They eventually came and helped for the first few weeks. The novelty wears off and they go back to their lives, right? But we still have this massive business that we're trying to take care of, and people blowing up your phone. I think eventually it was just like, I have to respect my needs. I have my daughter. John is trying to manage hundreds of clients' needs. And eventually you just start resenting the business. And so we were going to just sell it. We were going to sell it to our two showing agents and say, just send us referral fees. And at the time, it was a very interesting pivot point because when we got into real estate, we also started house hacking. We made every house a primary. We moved every 6 months and upgraded, used our real estate commission, waived our real estate commission to try to acquire these homes. Jacksonville's low cost of living at the time, lower interest rates, and we knew how to get the house we wanted. So we had built up
Mhm.
about 4 to 5 homes around that time and also started purchasing at foreclosure auction and doing the BRRRR method with homes. So at the point that we're having a breakdown, resenting our business, not sure how to see out of it, we have these rental properties that we're making some passive income from. This was also the first year that we made $1 million in commission on our sales business. So we see the light through the income and we say, we're just going to go minimalist, live off our rentals, trash the real estate business, and just live off of referral income. We'll just let the agents run it because we can't even see anymore.
Wow.
While we're living minimalist, and oh my gosh, it was so funny. I remember all the postings I've made on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, like selling all the things in our house, being like, how minimalist can we live? Because we just couldn't face it. And we were like, this is not okay. And you were with Keller Williams at a similar time where it's bold and living a life by design, and the culture is incredible. And the psychology of this is not what we're supposed to be living. Like we get that we've built a big nest egg, but how long is that actually going to last us, right? But in desperation mode, you're like, well, I can survive on that,
Right.
and we'll just see what happens. And then we decided that we were going to move to North Carolina and live minimalistic and just maybe get some small finance careers, right? So at this point, we're lonely with our daughter, no family. We're going to move back to family. We've made a ton of income in real estate sales. Beautiful, wonderful, unbelievable, right? Coming from a salary of 60 grand to now the two of us making $1 million in income in sales. We're like,
Right.
that we can live off that forever, right? You think
Mhm.
because we're not super frivolous. We don't buy crazy things. We're, pretty reserved when it comes to spending. And so we're like, we can live on this forever. Like, this is great. And then we'll just let the girls, the real estate agents that we have on our team run this. Well, we made 8 offers on homes in North Carolina and could not get a house. So if that's the universe saying, hold on here, that was our
Right.
biggest mirror up to be like, you can't just get what you want. We're not going to let this happen.
8 is a lot.
So yes, it was a lot. And this will eventually get in some more leverage things and freedom blueprint, which is our goal today. But there's some building blocks to understand how we get there, right? So the universe is saying, no, you can't have a house in North Carolina. We've got this team. We're living minimalists now for a few months saying we can do this forever. But that's not a life of purpose. That's a life of scarcity. That's a life
Right.
of that's not living a big life. And eventually that will come at the forefront to say, we're running scared. We're not ready to face these hard moments. So we are known for having a big whiteboard in our house that anytime we brainstorm or analyze or want to throw things out there to think about, we put it on the whiteboard.
That's the one thing you'll appreciate this,
Yeah.
Brittany. One of, like, the top things I miss about our travel lifestyle is not having a whiteboard.
The whiteboard,
Totally miss
man.
it.
Anytime to-do lists so that everybody can see or ideas circulating because he's more of a visionary. So he'll throw some things out there and then I can edit and play with it as the integrator and see where we go from there. But just brainstorming and mapping. So he's like, all right, we need to take a pause. So he starts writing out everything on the whiteboard and he's like, what do we love doing? Well, we were going to try to go to universities in North Carolina and teach real estate classes. We love the mentoring aspect. We love the people aspect. We're just overwhelmed by all the people's needs. We also at the time were paying a ridiculous amount to our brokerage, like 30 to 40% splits for both of us. I think
Wow.
like 50K in capping
Wow.
for our
Yeah,
team.
that's a lot.
Yeah, it was very interesting. And at the same time, our teammates, because we're all about transparency and all about share the information, let's face it, let's not hide from it. Our teammates were saying, well, I have the team split, but I also have to pay the brokerage. So the financials are not working out for me. And we never even saw that because we're like, well, this is a great opportunity, right? Blinded by ego, this great opportunity that they should take on. And so we're writing it out and we're like, okay, we never go into the office because when we go into the office, we get all the bottom feeder agents coming to us asking questions and we can't focus. And so we're not going to go to the office or we're just really busy. We're out there being producers and we don't have time to go to the office. Why do we need to go to the office? But we're paying office
Mhm.
fees. So I'm confused here. At the same time, our team is having an identity crisis with their financials even though they have a big opportunity. So we got to look at that. We love helping people. We know what we're doing. And so we draft it all out on the whiteboard and we're like, oh my goodness. He goes, this is a brokerage. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is a brokerage. Because I can't see outside of I'm nursing my baby and taking her to showings and I'm just trying to survive. He's like, Britt, this is a real estate brokerage. Okay, so this is 2019. And we're like, oh my gosh, well, we can't get a house. We're kind of forced to stay here. We've built so much momentum, no pun intended. Why are we going to let this all burn? Like we could back this up. So we talk to a few of our network people and we say, hey, if we made a real estate brokerage, would you guys join? And they were like, sign us up. So 2020, right before COVID hit, we opened Momentum Realty. And at the time, there were not a lot of discount brokerages. So it was more of a virtual model, a discount model, because we are holding our finances accountable. Why do we have to have all these offices? Why can't we do Zoom recordings, have everything be on the cloud? We want to make it only for top producers. So there was a certain quota that had to be met of if you want to be in this tribe, you have to perform. We wanted it to be more of a university level of real estate compared to like
Mm,
more of the elementary school, middle school. We wanted it to be for more
right.
of the elite. Eventually, we did
And
end up growing out to the accepting newbies because the experienced agents needed leverage in their business and we needed to bring them in for open houses and mentorship and more income opportunities. But that from 2020 to 2026 went from 0 agents to 280 now and hiring VAs, building out leverage for them, having more breakdowns, but then breakthroughs to say, okay, something's not working here. What can we fix? Will this meet the end result? Let's go. So to
Now,
answer the question of how do we get here, it was the biggest breakdown to figure out how do we change the model, and this isn't working for us, but there's something bigger here.
if you're a real estate entrepreneur trying to scale while doing everything yourself, there's a better way. The Time and Freedom Starter Pack gives you the exact first steps to reclaim hours each week with real support, including what to hand off, where to start, and simple tools you can put into place right away. Download it for free at adriennegreen.com/starter pack. Now let's get back to the episode. When you guys first started delegating and using leverage, it was out of necessity. How did
Yes.
you decide what to delegate and what to keep on your plates? Or was it just like, we're going to hand it all off because we're so burned out and overwhelmed? What did that look like?
So I learned over the years, my model personally is, and there's all the books that teach about structure and what it should be, but then there's reality, right? And sometimes we can't always read the books and get there. What I started doing anytime I hired leverage or anytime I just felt tension, like I'm overwhelmed, I'm burnt out, I don't know where to go. I can't even see outside myself. The first thing I always do, and John always does, and people love to talk about time blocking, like, oh, you got to block your time, block your time. I always back up and I track my time for like a month. So there's so many systems out there, but I believe in time tracking to then figure out leverage and then where we spend our time. And the beautiful part about time tracking is when I write everything out, I put next to it, am I the only person that can do this? Can someone
Right.
else do this? And then if it is someone else, is it an owner or more of a hired person, like a partner, or can it be a virtual assistant? Is this more task based? What category are we in of leverage if it's not me to then figure out now I'm building out a job description for each person that I could be hiring? And
Right.
how much would I have to pay that person? Do I have to hire a more expensive operations manager or can it go to a virtual assistant? So that was one of our first moments around hiring virtual assistants was saying, okay, here's my subset of tasks because I have tracked it daily. I have held it accountable. I have looked at it and I have assessed the data. And now I'm grouping things into buckets to say who can do this. And if it's another who, what caliber is it going to require financially? And
Right.
that's where we started.
I love that. That's what I always recommend people do first is that like time audit and then say
Yes,
like
I'm on
keep,
it.
delegate, or delete, right? Like keep it yourself, delegate it to
Yeah.
someone else, or should we just delete it out of our lives
Or
entirely?
deleting. Yeah, deleting. It's like, why am I doing this at all? But I will tell you that
Exactly.
the first round of leverage actually started when we had our child. When you're a business owner and you have kids, that shift is like the biggest shift because all of a sudden you cannot do it all. And so that
Right.
was when we started hiring even the basics on business activities, right? So cleaners, hooper scoopers, potentially some meal prep chef, lawn person. What is bogging down your energy? Now, if you love doing that, I get it. I mean, that's fine. People say they love cooking, but eventually you also level up and say, well, what now is my dollar per hour? So if I
Right.
now am at a couple $100 an hour, $500 an hour, $1,000 an hour, you start to think differently about where your time is going. Even if you love it, it doesn't change that now there's a screw that's in your brain that says, but I'm worth $200 an hour. Should I be
Mhm.
picking up dog poop in my backyard? I love cooking, but getting meal services is only this. And then I free up my time to then generate more business.
Right. Or enjoy it with your family.
Or enjoy it with your family, right? Cleaning was the biggest thing. House cleaning tends to be the first item. And then eventually you realize, oh, my Saturdays and Sundays are free where I can have some decompress time to then reset, reboot, and then drive again next week. And people, it may not be an exchange money for money, but there's also an energy audit where you're like, this is my time audit, but I'm doing this and I hate it, which also brings up a good point around leverage with spouses. If you're working with a spouse, John and I do this a lot, where we're constantly auditing our tasks and we're saying, this takes me an hour because I like writing content for social media. This does not come naturally. Give me QuickBooks and accounting and audit all day of that, and I will make our P&L and L and I will run the numbers. But if you want me to create media content, I'm going to spend hours just like sitting in it and spinning my wheels because it doesn't come naturally or it just doesn't make me happy. So eventually,
Right.
we look at each person and their roles. It may not be your spouse, maybe it's teammates, and we say, what are their strengths? We do a lot of personality assessments and we say, what are their strengths? Why am I doing this? Because I'm supposed to be doing this in a typical CFO or CEO role. but do I need to be doing this? So it's a lot of coming from curiosity and questioning and then learning about what the possibilities could be to then say, why do I have to do it this way? Could it actually be done better with this person? And then they get enjoyment and they get excitement
Right.
and they feel like they're contributing to the team. And eventually it creates this, beautiful system because we looked at the data first to figure out and then challenged the data to say, why are we doing that this way?
Right. Now, I know, Brittany, you have a really good story about when delegation didn't work that you are, still kind of, in the process of. And that's something I'd love to share because we share that a lot on the podcast here. We don't want to make everything seem like it's shiny and beautiful. There are ups and downs. So I always tell people when they want to delegate, people want to hand off sales because nobody likes sales. That's like whether that's they want to get a cold caller or they want to get somebody who's going to be like their main lead, like salesperson. They want to hand it off. And I'm like, as somebody who had a real estate team, I know how hard it is to get someone else to do the sales piece. So talk to us about your experience with trying to leverage that.
So there's two aspects of leveraging sales. So when we were in a sales team, we learned very quickly that the lead gen side, that's at the top, right? That is the highest dollar per hour. That is the most skilled was lead generation and bringing in new business. When we were in sales, what I did leverage out was showings sign running, transaction coordination. Those are the
Right.
roles that you hold the standards and people can rise to meet those standards. And when you do hold those standards, that's all the client cares about. They just care that they're getting a consistent experience that would have been done, whether it's me or my showing agent or a transaction coordinator. And it feels like me, right? There's the difference with the lead generation side and doing the negotiations and then like those really more complicated situations that gets them the result they want. That's where it becomes a little bit more complicated. Fast forward to the brokerage side, we have experienced for the first time ever outsourcing recruiting, thinking that this is a role that a very skilled recruiter can do, right? This should be fine. We've been doing it, me and John, for 6 years. It's been natural and organic of people finding us and word of mouth and content creation. And it didn't go the way we thought it would. You can have the most skilled recruiter. It is technically sales. You are pitching your company to these agents to say, come work with us, be with us, and we're going to help grow your business. And it's an interesting mix between I'm still in analyzing mode around whether we just understand the mission at our core, like John and I do as the owners, right? So where do we draw that line between expressing what we love about momentum and why we did this and our story, right? Because your story really comes best from you and projecting why you love doing what you're doing can come mainly from you. Once you add another filter through a second person, it gets diluted. And so we are trying to figure out whether that energy just wasn't showing up in the same way that people are seeing online through us and can it be recreated versus now it just doesn't resonate the same way because the companies have recruiters all the time, but there's
Right.
something different about the owners being the ones to connect in the sales pitch. And so that is an interesting topic. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm saying that we tried it and it has not worked yet for us
Right.
because at the end of the day, they still wanted a second round conversation with the owners. And so are you so big that you say, that's just, I don't have the capacity to do that? And you either take it or leave it. But for us as technically a startup brokerage, for the past 5 years compared to these legacy 30-year companies, it still feels intimate. It still feels like, well, I can access these people and you're telling me I can't access these people, right? It's not like we're
Right.
sitting in these office buildings in like a mega corporation with tons of red tape and then you never would expect. They see us on social media. They see us out and about with our people. So why can't I have a conversation with that person? So it's an interesting point you drive home around that final tier of sales, which is the largest dollar producing activity in a company. What happens when you hit that? Can you outsource it?
I'm curious if you have like your close rate versus the recruiter's close rate.
Yeah. We started going back and tracking this. I don't have the exact numbers, but our close rate was much higher. And that was when we looked at the data and said, you can be having all these conversations. And so we track appointments, right? So calls, appointments, tracking to get to the appointment. Did they cancel? What's the fall through rate? And then from appointment to conversion, how long did it take? If it took any time at all, or if they never responded again. And that was at the table conversation to converting and joining our company, for some reason we had a gap there. And so that was
Mhm.
where we're like, okay, something's off. And are we even able to hire a recruiter that can do the same things we're doing at this point? And that's what's frustrating. You should be able to.
Right.
But that is the conversation that we are debating right now because we can't do that forever. Eventually, as you scale and you grow, you're going to have to leverage out to other people or you're going to hit a certain ceiling. And so that's frustrating, right? For us as
Right.
growth minded and wanting to build a big, beautiful company, that is our next gap in saying, are we able to hire out and leverage every single role? And if we can't, where are John and my key responsibilities going to lie? So maybe we are the recruiters. Maybe we are the sales pitchers. And now I'm going to have to face, okay, do I hire another broker? Do I hire a full on accountant or virtual assistant to help with other tasks? We already have 3 virtual assistants. We have 2 boots on the ground people here helping us. So we've gotten to, this massive company. We're the number 2 independent brokerage in Northeast Florida with about 5 to 6 people.
That's pretty
So
lean. That's a pretty lean
it's pretty
operation.
lean. Right. It's still very, very lean compared to people who have in-house staff all the time, team leaders, assistants, a front desk person, all the things. So we've gotten very streamlined and very lean. It's a constant challenge of how lean can you get? And then what is the
Right.
next role to hire?
Right. Since I know you, Brittany, and like you, I know that, with that conversation about the recruiter, sometimes people say, when you're delegating, oh, if somebody can do something 80% as well as you can, it's worth it because it
Yeah.
frees you up. Personally, I don't agree with it. I have seen enough times that you can delegate and you can find somebody who does it as good or better than you can and still free
Yes.
you up. Like from the meal prep example, you can find a chef or meals that are probably for me, better than I would spend the time to do myself, right? I'm not going to spend every meal like it's Thanksgiving dinner. Or, in the business, it's the same thing. I can find people who can do better email newsletters or better outreach than I can do because that's better video editing, because that's not my zone of genius. And I feel like you can get somebody who's going to recruit as well as you can, and there'll be a way. It's just going to be figuring out, solving that problem of how they can step into those shoes. And it just may be that this guy wasn't the one.
It could be. We have also looked at that and saying, well, the salary we were paying, was it worth freeing up me and John's time? Eventually, they will convert because our information is out there. If they value the information, they should be able to see that it's worth it to come over compared to their current situation. But here's what we learned in debating all the things we just talked about. We also looked at the numbers. The numbers don't lie. And I'm not talking about the process numbers of appointment setting, conversion rates, fall through rates, etc. We learned that the ROI for a recruiter, and so ROI is very important. It takes the emotion out of the situation because we know he's talented. We know that he's had success in other companies. That was the confusing part. All of this
Right.
should have worked. We have the best person for the role. What we did not expect is that our model is so lean and very inexpensive for what we charge the real estate agents compared to other big box brokerages that have massive profit available to pay each salaried person on their roster. We don't
Mhm.
have the same thing. We always hire independent contractors. What we charge our agents to be within this ecosystem is so low that the profit and ROI for each person he brought in would have to be X to compare to these other brokerages that charge so much for their overhead
Right.
that they have that bundle of money to pay these people on staff. We do not. We're
Mhm.
so lean as an operation. We hold every dollar accountable. We see if there's another way. We see if there's another person or a system that we can bring in before we hire. Hiring is like so slow for us, which it should be. But it's because our model is so inexpensive. It does not lend the profitability per agent to then apply to a recruiter. The ROI is not
Right.
there. And we thought about that. We're like, wait a minute. If you bring in a capper, which you're in the real estate world, if you bring in a top producer, that would pay the compensation for however many months for this recruiter, 1 or 2 top producers. But because we don't charge, we charge half or a third, we now have to get 5 of those people to make up to pay him for that work. So our model did not resonate in the same way in hiring that specific role. We challenged ourselves saying, well, everybody has this. This is our next thing. It's obvious this is our next leverage. We've been going so long without it. Duh. But what we didn't realize is that you can have the best people, but the profit model did not support it. And that's a
Right,
hard
you guys are running
conversation.
your business a different way.
Solely. Yes.
Awesome. Well, there have been so many wisdom. I appreciate you, Brittany, sharing, let's say opening the kimono, sharing the truth, the good, bad, and the ugly of growing from W-2 employee through all the way to now, not just, you went from employee to that solopreneur to business owner. And now you've got this whole brokerage and have really created your life by design. I love that. Now, if people would like to reach out and connect further, what's the best way for them to do so?
Yes, we can drop my contact information below, email, phone number. You can message us on social media platforms, so Facebook and Instagram. And I'll leave with one thing that I didn't touch on previously as some last wisdom and nugget. Don't be afraid to hire the leverage. Obviously, people have good and bad stories, but Adrienne, you said it earlier. There's this beautiful blessing that can come where the people actually end up being better than you. And I wish we had dug into that more, but there is hope. There is hope around leverage, and it's not all bad situations and trauma and cost. It can be, what can I do with this person involved because I could not do it myself? And
Right.
them realizing their journey and their beauty in their role and evolving is this magical experience that it's just indescribable when you find the right people, and it's going to take some iterations potentially, but the magic is outstanding and they can do it
I
better than
love
you.
it.
And that is a huge ego conversion that most entrepreneurs go through when they realize and they step aside what's possible.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that, Brittany. And for our listeners, thanks for joining me for another episode of the Freedom Blueprint. I would love for you to think about what real estate entrepreneur you know who could benefit from hearing Brittany's story, and go ahead and send this episode over to them. Then join me again next week for another episode of the Freedom Blueprint.